Hey, today I'm talking about the Oceans trilogy. So Oceans 11, Oceans 12, and Oceans 13. This series stars George Clooney, Brad Pitt. It also has Julia Roberts in two of them. Matt Damon, Bernie Mac, Elliot Gould, Casey Affleck, Scott Caan, Eddie Jamieson, Carl Ranier, and Shabu Quinn. I think that's the OG 11. Now, I have seen these movies before, but it's been a long time, so I thought, hey, why not rewatch it? I know I like these movies, so this should be fun. And spoilers, it was a lot of fun. First up is Oceans 11. This came out in 2001, and after having rewatched it, I realized that this is one of my all-time favorite movies ever. I crazy ridiculously love this movie. So obviously, I definitely, without a doubt, recommend this movie. Like, if you haven't seen it before, you have done yourself a major disservice. Go right now and watch this movie. It's on HBO Max, or buy it. It's definitely worth buying it on physical copy, and it is amazing. You will have such a wonderful time. I also recommend it if it's been a while since you've seen it, or if you even watched it yesterday, watch it again today. This movie's amazing. I love this movie so much. I would say this is as close to a perfect movie as you could potentially get. I'm not being hyperbolic. I honestly think this, because it is so much fun. It is silly and smart at the same time, and just like all of the actors are having such a fun time that you can't help from also having a really fun time. Like, this movie is everything that I want in a movie. It's just like, if you're like in a downward spiral, this movie could totally fix that a little bit. I mean, not permanently, but for the 2 hours while you're watching it, trouble should melt away, probably. Unless you're a casino owner, then this will be your nightmare. They rob a casino. They rob 3 casinos, sorry. Yeah, no. I love this movie a lot. I kind of almost didn't want to rank it on my list because of how much I crazy freaking love this movie, but I wanted to do all 3 of these, so I was like, all right, well, I have to count it, even though I don't want to. I just want to make like its own special little list, but whatever, it's fine. So yeah, definitely watch this movie. It's amazing. I love it so much. Yes. Next up is Oceans 12. This came out 3 years later, so 2004. And actually, I went to the movie theater with my mom to go see this movie, and I vividly remember doing that still. It was a long time ago. And actually, my mom remembers it too. This one, I will actually explain the plot. This takes place 3 years later. In the first one, they successfully robbed the casinos, and now someone's ratted on them, and the casino owner wants his money back with interest. And they have 2 weeks to do it. But then it turns out that the guy who ratted on them is actually a thief who wants to have a thief competition with them. And this movie is definitely a step down from the first one, but it's still pretty good. It has some faults, but it still has a lot of charm and charisma and is a lot of fun. I definitely like the premise a lot. I think that's a very logical continuation of the story. My issue, though, comes with the end of the movie, and so I'd have to spoil it. But before I get to that, I will say that I still enjoyed this one a good solid amount. It's a quite like. So I would honestly still recommend it. It's nowhere near as good as the first one. Oh my god. But it's still a nice, fun, good time. Like, if you really just like jonesing for some more Ocean's goodness, this isn't a bad one to watch. I know people like to shit on the whole Julia Roberts bit, but like, I remember thinking it was really funny when I was 13, 14, and I honestly didn't mind it now. So like, that's not my issue with this movie. Now, to say my actual issue, I'm going to spoil the end of the movie, so if you haven't seen it before, you've been warned. At the very end of the movie, it's revealed that in a scene that feels like it's kind of tacked on, the last hour has been bullshit. So basically, they're trying to steal this fancy egg from a museum, and the last hour has been them like trying and failing miserably to get the egg, and just keeps getting worse and worse and worse for them. And then at the very end, they reveal, oh no, we actually stole it like a week before, and we were just pretending to steal it now so that you'd be distracted. The you being the French guy that they're competing against. And it's like, that's a really cheap ending. And it really undermines the entire film. Especially because like, the fun of heist movies is, obviously we don't have perfect information, but we need to feel, as an audience, we need to feel like we're in on the heist. That is like a fundamental thing of all heist movies. It needs to feel like the audience is in on the plan. There can still be like backup plans and twists and turns that we don't know about. Like a moment where you think, oh, our heroes are really screwed now, but oh, they actually planned for this and it's this thing, and that's really fun. But in here, it feels so cheap. It feels like they robbed from us, and that's just lame. I do think I was riding the high of the first one. That's why I kind of give this one more of a generous ranking. I think even if I was a bit more cooled on the first one, like I didn't watch it immediately after, I would still have put this one in the quite liked. But yeah, it's a noticeable step down, and that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. I did enjoy seeing Catherine Zeta-Jones. She was a lot of fun. And Brad Pitt kind of got more attention in this one, and that was also a lot of fun. I'm a big Brad Pitt fan. But yeah, it's good. I'd still recommend it, even with all my gripes. And lastly is Ocean's 13. This came out in 2007, and it's definitely my least favorite of the three, but it's still okay. So the premise in this one feels a little bit more forced. Basically, one of the members of the Oceans group, Elliot Gould, partnered up with Al Pacino, and then Al Pacino screwed him over, so now everyone is banding together to screw over Al Pacino without him realizing it. The premise is silly. This movie's very silly. One of my biggest complaints about the movie is just how much like sci-fi bullshit is in it. Like all three movies have like a little bit of sci-fi in it. Like the first one has the EMP, and then the second one has the holographic egg, and then this one is just like so chock full of sci-fi that it's too much. Like the drill, they're drilling underneath Los Angeles. No, it's like watching The Core. Why are you trying to copy that movie? It did not do well. It's fine, but it's not a movie worth copying. People like to shit on that movie. The movie's actually good. It's not amazing, it's fine. It's a turn your brain off movie. Whatever. Neither here nor there. I do also feel like this movie's kind of lacking because it doesn't have any of the other female leads. Like Julia Roberts and Catherine Zeta-Jones are gone. I mean, the movie's still fun. The chemistry between all of the characters is incredible, and it's still filled with lots of charm and charisma, but like, again, it is a noticeable step down in quality. And like, a lot of the stuff they do to like cheat the system is just feels like sci-fi bullshit. Just to like, oh, we need them to be able to do this, so let's just say that they can do this. And I'm just like, no, stop it. And then everything with like the critic was kind of silly. I really wasn't sold on Al Pacino in this movie. He just feels like he's a carbon copy of the original bad guy, and he's not better in any way. I don't know. So even though I was very down on this movie, I still liked it. I still put it in the liked category. It was still fine. It was definitely not as good as the other two, but it wasn't a bad time. So I'd still recommend it. Alrighty, now for today's rankings. First up, we got Ocean's 11 sitting at number 2 in the really liked category. It's just behind One Cut of the Dead, which is an amazing film, and considering how much I love Ocean's 11, it's safe to say that One Cut of the Dead is easily, hands down, going to be now one of my all-time favorite movies as well. I love that movie so much, and I love this movie so much. It's definitely, without a doubt, worth a watch. It's great. And then after that is Ocean's 12, sitting at number 41 in the quite alike section. It's kind of right in the middle of the quite like section. And then bringing up the rear is Ocean's 13, sitting at number 66 in the liked category. Again, right in the middle. And this is out of a total of 105 old movies so far this year. And I just want to say that like, really all three of the movies are good, solid movies. Like, I would kind of describe it as like, you can kind of choose where you stop. So like, you can watch just the first one and then not watch anything else, and that's totally fine. Or if you want a little bit more, then you could choose to go to the second one. And then again, you could just choose to stop right there, and that's totally fine. Or you could choose to do all three, and that's also fine. And then speaking of Ocean's movies, I have seen Ocean's 11 when it came out in theaters. So it's been a while since I've seen it, but kind of based on where I ranked it with other stuff, I would probably put Ocean's 8 as my second favorite Ocean's movie. It's still in the quite like section, but it would be, theoretically, if they're all on the same list, I would probably put Ocean's 8 just a little bit above. It's relatively close to Ocean's 12, but I think it's probably a little bit higher. It's good, it definitely has its faults, but it's still a nice, fun movie, and I hope they make more because it's, you know, it's a really fun concept. I love heist movies, they're a blast. So yeah, I haven't watched the original Ocean's 11 yet. I'll get there eventually, but yeah, it's good stuff.